Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60.
Hey! Welcome to Soccer in 60, everybody. You're listening out there on KMET Radio and catching us on the podcast in about an hour and 10 minutes. It's fantastic to have you on here on a Thursday. We're hanging out with my buddy Philly, and we're going to get after it today. We're going to be talking LAFC and LA Galaxy, and we have a special guest today. We've got Scott French, who is a world-renowned writer and author. He's going to come on and hang out with us for a while. We've got Panda coming in to talk Angel City. We've got some great news on the Strykers and MASL in general. We've got a lot to talk about Orange County and what's been going on with them since this past weekend's dismantling. And we're going to get into it a little miscellaneous. We'll talk a little UEFA at the end of the day. But thanks for joining us. Philly, my man, how are you today, baby?
What's going on, Tim? What's up, Soccer in 60? Thursday afternoon is upon us, as is the Labor Day weekend. I'm sure many of you are already in vacation mode. I know I am. So let me take a moment to welcome you to not only a long weekend, but to your happy hour. And Tim, if there's anything I've learned about you, is you're always about getting after it. So that being said, let's rip.
Yeah, bombs away, baby. I like the way that you're talking, man. You got my style. Let's go. So let's talk a little bit about, we're going to mix it up a little bit. We'll get into some LA Galaxy first this week versus they were taking on Atlanta United. And this was a great game. If you really like the Galaxy, the Atlanta really dominated this first half, and John McCarthy really had to save the Galaxy's bacon a couple of times. You know, Atlanta really took it to them, but the Galaxy were happy to go into the halftime at 0-0, right? And then if you look at that second half was classic LA Galaxy. And for those of you who don't know, the LA Galaxy is a great second half team. They are second in the league with 31 second half goals. So if you're not up on these guys a couple of goals at halftime, you are dead in the water. So in the second half, right away, there's a couple of great shots. There's some great buildup by the Galaxy, and they come down, and then really, truly, the game changes about 15 minutes into the second half. The new signing, Marco Reus, comes in, and his impact is immediate. Within 2 minutes of him coming in, there's a PK. And Paintsil, unfortunately, hits it to the right. Brad Guzan, the Atlanta goalkeeper, dives to his left and makes the save. However, less than a minute later, there is a brilliant buildup, and the ball bounces to Reus at the top of the box. Reus lays a beautiful pass off. And who's there but to take this thing? Ricky Pooch. And Brad Guzan has no chance as Pooch puts this thing far side, upper 90. And the joy on Marco Reus's face as Pooch buries this thing is fantastic. And then, not 10 minutes later, the next thing you know, Marco gets his first goal in an LA Galaxy jersey, and it is another brilliant one. He gets it, and he just buries it. 2-0. The game ends 2-0. It is absolutely a great game for the LA Galaxy. They're getting after it, just like we are today, Philly. It was fantastic in that second half for the Galaxy.
So Marco Reus signing on to the LA Galaxy is obviously big news. But as excited as a lot of the Galaxy fan base might be, let's not forget the fact that the first goal really was created by Riqui Puig. An incredible shot. You or I could have made that pass to Riqui Puig. So sure, Royce is going to get the credit for the dime. Second of all, the goal that he had while he slotted it past Guzan in a brilliant fashion. Let's not forget, the defense of Atlanta United was putrid. He casually stepped up right after that ricochet rebound saved by Guzan and slotted it home. But it is a tremendous start for Marco Royce. He comes in within the 65th minute, a dime and a goal. Huge. But obviously there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. Atlanta United is building for the future, not so much the present.
Absolutely. And we talked about that last week, that they have definitely had a fire sale. But wins a win, 2-0. And like you said, Royce gets his own rebound and slots it home. This weekend is going to be a little bit different, though, because they're playing St. Louis. And they're playing in St. Louis. In the last 3 games against St. Louis, sister kissers, all draws. Nobody wants to see a draw, even if it's 3-3. I want to see some wins. But St. Louis they're sitting second to last, only above San Jose in the Western Conference at 4-10-12. But you know what? Where have all 4 wins come from? They are fantastic at home. They are 4-4-5 at home. So, that's fantastic for them, right? They're 500 at home and all 4 wins coming at home. Galaxy are going to have a pretty tough time of this, especially because it's an 11:45 kickoff in St. Louis. So the Galaxy are going to travel, and they're playing at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So this is going to be a tougher game than most traveling out to St. Louis. And we talked about this before. Galaxy is 5-4-4 on the road. So this is going to be a really, really strong test, especially with some of the new players they're putting in, with Royce coming in and playing at basically a 10 a.m. time. So with that, let's take it over to Philly, and we've got a great guest on for us today.
A great guest indeed, one that I am proud and happy to introduce, not only because I spent a great deal of time with him in LAFC press conferences, but because of his accomplishments. Our guest today has been writing about pro soccer since 1979. He has covered 3 men's World Cups and 2 women's World Cups, 3 Olympics, a men's European Championship, and at least 15 MLS Cups. He's a former senior editor at Soccer in America and managing editor at Major League Soccer magazine with 20 years of experience as a writer and editor in what the kids used to call newspapers. As an LA area native, he has covered the Galaxy and LAFC since their inception. He is currently a writer for Soccer America. We welcome to the show, Mr. Scott French.
Well, thank you, guys. That's a very nice introduction, and I hope I can live up to it.
I know you're going to live up to it, Scott. I'm a little shocked you're not wearing your San Francisco Giants hats, my man. That's how I recognize you in a sea of reporters, but we're going to get right into it. Scott, we talk about Marco Royce being a presence on the LA Galaxy. With Marco having a fast start, provided he keeps it up, of course, who do you see getting pushed out of the Galaxy lineup?
That's a very good question, and I'm wondering how much they may just start playing around with formation, because I don't want to lose Delgado, and you've got to have a 6. And so, do you start looking at a three-man back line, and you're starting to use some wing backs? I think it's a difficult question for Greg. I'm glad it's Greg that has to make that decision and not me. I'm also wondering, do you start playing a little bit with what you do up top? Do you use the 2 wingers with Joseph stepping into the kind of a false 9 role, and you've got Ricky and Royce underneath them? I think there's a lot of options for them, and I don't think there's a perfect solution for it.
You bring up a really good point, because Royce comes in for Marky Delgado in the 65th minute. At this point, and we can't say this for a long time, the Galaxy now have caviar problems and champagne dreams. Now, how do you see Riqui Puig and Royce matching up and complementing each other? Do you feel that it's a natural fit with these 2 on the field?
I do. I think that this is really, really big for the Galaxy because now they've got two dimensions in attack. Before it was Ricky, and we know what Ricky's going to do. He's going to pop up at various places. He's going to try and slice through the back line, going to try and slice through the midfield to find space. He's going to feed people. And now you've got Royce. And when you watch Royce, he was just kind of underneath, going back and forth where there was space. He went to that spot. When he needed to open up space, he moved to another spot so someone else could move in. I think it complements Ricky perfectly. And I think that they are a much more dangerous attack with the two of them together than with just Ricky.
That's great. Hey, Scott, so you're the foremost expert on LA Galaxy. You are. I mean, come on. It's okay to we'll brag about you. You don't have to. How do you see these guys comparing to some of the great teams of, from 2011 to 2014 and some of these players like Donovan and Kane and Beckham? Do you think this team is built for that same level of greatness?
I think it's a difficult question because the league has evolved so much. It's a different league now. I think that this team has the best attacking midfield that the Galaxy have ever had. But I don't think they have up top what they had with Landon and Keane. I think that's the gold standard for them there. I think they were better defensively with that team. That's my biggest concern with the Galaxy right now is how they're going to deal defensively and especially in the defensive third. They are a little bit hit and miss. When they're rested, they're good. When they've been playing a lot of games and with some of the age they have back there, they're a little bit iffy. They make mistakes, and that's been something that's been a problem for a few years. It's not just popped up now. I think this team has the ability to win championships, but I don't think that they are dominant in the way that especially the 2011, 2012 teams were. But a lot of that has to do with the evolution of the league. I think there's a lot more contenders now than there were then. I think the game has evolved tactically, and I think that there's a lot more talent in the league now as well. And I don't want to dismiss earlier teams either. We were talking to Vanny after practice last week, and we were talking about the early days, the team that Vanny was on, and that '96 team. As he was talking about, we never went into the kind of tactics that we go into now, he was saying. And it's true. I would love to have seen that 96 team, maybe with a little bit deeper bench if they could play today, if they had grown up in today's world. I think that back line would be phenomenal if they were of today rather than of the era that they're from.
God, that's some great insight because we were just thinking that same stuff. So looking at where MLS was back in '96, so let's just dovetail into that. Where do you think they rank in contacts of international soccer? Where do you see MLS being in 10 years?
Wow, I think that I think it's still going to be a bit of a feeder league. I think it's going to grow, and I think we may, as soon as we can get rid of the salary cap. And I don't know how quickly that's going to happen. As soon as teams are able to spend what they want to spend, I think that this could become a league where top players come to in their primes. People love the lifestyle here. But you need to get that type of economic situation in order to do that. As the league stands now, I think it's underrated around the world. I think it's underrated among MLS fans. I think it offers challenges that other leagues don't offer. And so it's almost an apples and oranges situation in that continental Europe, you've got the way the game is played. You've got the systems that have been in place for generations. You've got the weather as it is. You've got the travel as it is. And you come over here and it's just a completely different world. And I think that players who come over here, whether they come from Europe or South America, and especially players who want to then go on to Europe, they're gaining experiences here that they cannot gain over there. And I think that helps them when they get over there.
Scott, I couldn't agree. I mean, we've seen images on social media of Gareth Bale going out there and shopping in Target. Olivier Giroud could easily walk around Hollywood Boulevard, and he'd probably be the 17th most famous person within that area within that moment of time. So no, you're absolutely right. Now, we've been talking a lot about the LA Galaxy. You and I know each other very well from the area of LAFC. So let's transition into questions about LAFC. Now, LAFC on Sunday, they lost a big final against the Columbus Crew for the second straight time. Do you see a danger of the team coming away with Columbus? You know, do you think that they come out of that traumatized? Or would you say, and maybe an unfair question, given that LAFC played on the road against Columbus, like how do you think that the impact of the game against the Crew, not only in the League's Cup final, but in last MLS Cup final, will impact this team going forward?
You know, I don't think it's going to impact it much, and I think that's because of the way that it is set up, the way that Steve Cherundolo has set it up, the staff, the way that they approach the game. I think they put this behind them and they move on. Where I think this has residue is when they start playing Columbus again. I think that psychologically Columbus gets more into their head. I also think the Crew are the best team in MLS, and that's all about Nancy. And of course the players have to put it together, but they're just phenomenal. And LAFC, they don't match up well with them, and I think that that's one of the things that LAFC has to look towards next year and further on is how can they improve their possession game. They've, as Steve has talked about earlier this year, they've moved a little bit more to the center of that spectrum of possession or transition, but they're still a transition team. And we saw that against Columbus when they can't transition the way they want to, they get stuck. They can't necessarily find the holes, and they need to find a way to do so. I think that's also a question with Giroux. Watching Giroux in the game against Columbus, I don't think we can really get an adequate idea of what he's going to do with this team. But I also wonder how well he's going to fit into the transition game, and I want to see more of that to get a better idea. He's obviously a great player. He obviously can do great things, but how good a fit is he for this group as it stands now versus how it may stand next season?
100%. I mean, he needs service. He's the kind of player that needs service within the box. And we've seen that countless times in his career at Arsenal, Chelsea, AC Milan, obviously France, so on and so forth. And you're right. The Columbus Crew arguably might be one of the best teams Major League Soccer has ever had. So it's tough for LAFC to win against a team that well built on the road. But let's transition on over to the U.S. Open Cup. LAFC beat the Seattle Sounders in front of a capacity crowd of 4,500 at Starfire in Tukwila, Washington. Shout out Metallica, by the way, for owning Lumen Field. But based on what you saw in that game against Seattle, what are you expecting? From LAFC, they're going to be playing a game against the Houston Dynamo, a team that is on the cusp of the playoffs. What are you expecting from the Black and Gold this Saturday?
I think that they were frustrated last night as well because that pitch is not easily playable, and I think they were, I think they were frustrated by the game itself a lot. It was difficult for them to play their game, and that they fought through it and prevailed, I think says a lot about this team. I think we're going to see LA, and especially the way that Cherundolo managed time. I think that they have a chance of coming out with as close to a first choice team as you can have without Murillo, and we'll see about Giroux. And I expect to see them back where they were. But Houston is a tough team. They're a tough team to play against, and they're a team that's playing with something, something in mind. But LAFC at home, I expect them to win, but in this league anything can happen.
Yeah, so it's interesting you say that. They've had such a strong season this season. I mean, they made it to the final of Leagues Cup. They're making it to the final of U.S. Open Cup. They're top 3 in the standing Western Conference. What is it that's having some of these fans arguing about that it's time to replace Cherundolo?
I don't know. I like to say that there's a reason that those on the inside pay no attention to what fans say. had a conversation with Bob Bradley maybe 15 years ago where we're just talking about what was going on with the national team at that point. And he was saying, if you're not on the inside, you have no idea what's going on the inside. And that's the universal truth of pro sports. Fans see the surface. Media, to an extent, only sees a little bit beyond the surface. We can't see what's inside either because we're not there. We're not at practice every day. We're not in the meetings. We're not watching the film. And I think that, fans see the surface and they get frustrated when things aren't as perfect as they want it to be. And there is immense context with everything that goes on. And I'll tell you, I don't get it. I think Cherundolo's done a fantastic job. I think this team is the best team in the Western Conference and a team that we should be expecting to play in the MLS Cup final. God forbid it's in Columbus, but this is a team that can win a championship again, or at least be playing for it. And then I know in all the sports, we know the whole thing: Buffalo Bills, Minnesota Vikings, teams that get to the final repeatedly and lose, and what failures they are. Getting to a final is not a failure; that's a success. Mm-hmm. Only one team can win. Sometimes things don't go your way. You're frustrated by it. You don't like it, but that's sports. Sometimes there's a better team out there.
Yeah, being number 2 out of 30 ain't that bad.
Yeah.
Now, Scott, I certainly appreciate the time that you took to spend with us. Lord knows on Thursday you got better things to do than to hang out with me and Tim. I guess I just got a quick question to ask you. Am I going to see you on Saturday?
You will see me on Saturday. I will be there on Saturday.
All right, I appreciate it. I got to give you back that Grateful Dead CD. I absolutely love it. You've made me a deadhead, Scott. Thank you so much for your CD, your friendship, and, of course, your time.
There's my accomplishment for the day.
Thanks,
Nothing
Scott.
but love, Scott. See you soon.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
All right. With that being said, Tim, I think it's fair that we talk about LAFC. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely, man. What a ripper. That was great.
All right. So as you normally say, I'm going to go get after it. It's been an interesting week for LAFC, without a question. A week filled with highs and lows. The lows of losing a League's Cup final to the Columbus Crew again. But as Scott alluded to, the Columbus Crew, this version of them, maybe the best team that we've ever seen in Major League Soccer. But, of course, the high coming from the fact that LAFC beat the Seattle Sounders and are now in the U.S. Open Cup final, taking on Sporting Kansas City with the game to be played on September 25th at BMO Stadium. Let's talk about the game against the Crew and, of course, the game against the Sounders. Not entirely sure how much time I have. I'm going to assume 5 minutes, but here I go, and I'll probably get an answer as I talk. 85 degrees, Tim, and 86% humidity at kickoff. Sweat-inducing conditions, hence all the hydration breaks that they would have. I am going to spare you 44 minutes worth of commentary because the first half was deadlocked until the dying moments of the first half. Now, the Crew went into the locker room up at the half with the lone goal being registered in the 45th minute by Crew talisman Cucho Hernandez, who at the conclusion of the match was named best player of the 2024 Leagues Cup. He headed a ball from Mo Farsi past Hugo Lloris. Farsi was so open, you can count in Mississippi's the amount of time it took him to get that pass up. Cucho dunks on a poor Ilie Sanchez, 1-0. And for LAFC, not a good thing because they're 0-4-4 when conceding first. In the second half, Olivier Giroud, LAFC's biggest name acquisition and the leading scorer in the history of the French national team, not only got his first start, but scored for the first time in an LAFC kit. How did it happen? Denis Bouanga won a corner. Matty Bogusz taking the corner, slotted it into the box. He gets his second assist of the League's Cup and his 8th time in all competitions. Giroud heads it at the far post. Boom. We are tied at 1. But like LAFC did at the end of the second half, similar to how they did at the end of the first half, it was over in the dying moments. Cucho scores in the 90th plus second. The kid from Colombia would not only score a unclinical goal, but the dagger that Columbus needed in order to strike into the heart of LAFC. He was really looking for Jason Russell Rowe, but instead curled a ball that got past Hugo Lloris, a ball that one would argue Hugo probably should have saved. So we're at 2-1, and then Columbus gets another one later. Cucho would actually connect with Jason Russell Rowe, 3-1. LAFC loses to the Crew in another final, but the bright note, LAFC qualifies for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, so at least part of the mission was complete. We now quickly transition into Wednesday, which at the time of this recording was yesterday. U.S. Open Cup semifinal versus the Sounders in Tukwila, Washington at Starfire Stadium in front of a capacity crowd of 4,500, the home of Seattle Reign FC and the USL's Tacoma Defiance. Why Tukwila, you ask? It's simple. Metallica is playing at Lumen Field. Who's going to put cheeks in seats? Metallica. Not so much the U.S. Open Cup, not so much any team in Major League Soccer. Now, Wednesday's game was the sixth time that LAFC and Seattle have met in a single-game knockout-style tournament, with LAFC going 4-2-0 in those matches. Nothing happened in the first half. I'll tell you that much. In the second half, we wouldn't see anything until the 83rd minute, where we saw the only legal goal. It was Matty Bogusz that had a shot that hit off the arm of the Seattle Sounders, Pedro De La Vega, who just recently subbed in, and Christian Roldan. That prompted referee Ricardo Fiore to blow his whistle, and that places LAFC 12 yards to glory. Denny Bouanga, he's been automatic his entire career wearing a black and gold jersey, slots it home, practically automatic from 11 meters away, 1-0. Bouanga now has 23 goals and 14 assists in all competitions this season. That would be how the match would end. LAFC is now in its first U.S. Open Cup final, first time in club history. They went to the semifinals in 2018 where they would lose to the Houston Dynamo in penalty kicks, and now LAFC is in its seventh final since 2018, their first year ever as a club. That's the story there. And their next match will be this. Well, hold on. The U.S. Open Cup will be played September 25th at 7:30. The next match, though, for the LAFC is going to be against the Houston Dynamo this Saturday at 7:30. Dynamo are looking to come into the playoffs. LAFC looking to take care of business. The Dynamo are a much better team on the road, 6-5-2. And we welcome back LAFC club favorite Latif Blessing. So that is your LAFC highlight within two games, within a couple of minutes. And I'm knackered. On to you, Ken.
That was awesome, Philly. I asked about QPR Rangers, but we might not have time. So let's hop into the MASL and the Strykers.
Well, I'll tell you really quickly. The chairman of QPR is also a part owner of LAFC. And I also went to a QPR game at Loftus Road against West Bromwich Albion to open up the English Championship. So there's the answer to your question.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, I'm glad I asked then. So fantastic. Hey, if you are paying attention, as we all are, there's been some teasing on the MASL website lately and on their Instagram feeds. We don't know the full thing, but hey, Billy, let's speculate a little bit about what's going on with MASL. I know that there has been great talk about some expansion, about doing multiple things. You know, we just saw some new sponsors come in. You know, and then we can talk a little bit about that, and then also about the upcoming game that's going to be right here in Ontario. So what do you think MASL is teasing here a little bit?
I mean, that's a good point. It could be sponsorships. It could be a platform that MASL is going to stream on. We got to stream, obviously, on Twitch. We got to stream on Facebook, YouTube in the past, CBS Sports Golazo Network. That might be a thing. I'm kind of hoping that it's somewhere along those lines because, as you know, I am the play-by-play guy for the Empire Strikers going on 5 years. I would love to get the opportunity to call games on a bigger platform. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I obviously don't want to hype things up, but it could be a plethora of things. Sponsorship, streaming, expansion, who knows?
Yep, and I'm looking forward to it. So hopefully we'll, keep chasing down those MASL guys and keep watching on Instagram and their website and their feed, and I'm sure we'll get enough information soon enough. So let's talk about the upcoming game here at Toyota Arena in just a few weeks. USA and Mexico playing in a what's going to be a great game here at Toyota Arena.
This will be the third time I get to be on the call, not only with Jonathan Reimer, the doctor, but alongside panelist Amanda the Panda Filliman, who will be on later today, giving you the Angel City FC update. Yes, USA versus Mexico. And for the Galaxy fans that listen to the show, got some fun news for you. Marcelo Sarvas will be competing for the U.S. Why, you ask? Well, he's Brazilian and he's got U.S. citizenship. Blah, blah, blah. Sorry about the tongue tie. So that's going to be fun. He's going to be playing alongside teammate Breck Shea, and he's going to be competing against the likes of Marco Fabian and Miguel Ponce. And of course, against some of the most talented players in the game of indoor soccer. Tim, that should be a good one. Tickets are still available. We're still waiting on the info regarding the broadcast, but as I mentioned, yours truly will be on the call, whatever platform the broadcast may be on.
Yeah, and that's going to be super fun because you can still get tickets. You can get tickets down low. You can get them for cheap. It's going to be a very family-friendly event. So bring the wife, bring the kids, bring your neighbor's kids, get the kids started early with watching indoor soccer. I took my son to a couple of games last season, and he immediately fell in love with Izzy, the captain of the Strykers, and he's already wanting to come back to at least 4 or 5 games this season. And he's living way down by the beach, and he wants to make that road trip all the way out to Ontario just to see the game.
God bless him. Make sure you don't hesitate on getting him season tickets. And folks, there will be a 2024 MASL Pro Player Combine. It's going to take place on October 26th through the 29th in San Diego, California, Oceanside to be more precise, at the newly built Front Wave Arena, the home of the San Diego Sockers, their forever home going forward. If you think you have what it takes to play professional indoor soccer, and I know there are a lot of Monday morning center backs out there listening to soccer podcasts like Soccer in 60. If you think you've got what it takes, well, head on over to the Major Arena Soccer League website and apply. So, folks, once again, October 26th through the 29th, the MASL Pro Player Combine. Maybe you will have the fortunate opportunity to have Philly call one of your goals in the highest level of professional indoor soccer anywhere in the world.
It's going to be awesome. And that new stadium is going to be magic. We've had the general manager of San Diego on here a couple of times, and he can't talk enough about that new stadium. Go down there, check it out, try out for a team. Maybe you too can be a guest on Soccer in 60 after you make the Strykers.
There you go.
And with that, let's transition over to our favorite ACFC correspondent, Panda Filliman.
Nina Kiever's not going to be happy hearing that, Tim.
Oh, no, that's why she's not here. I know she's listening.
Nina gonna kill you, Tim.
I will tell her not to watch this episode, or at least to skip past it.
I'm texting right now that she's going to kill Tim.
That's right. Uh-oh. Right now. My phone's lighting up.
Oh my gosh. All right. Enough of that. It's so good to be back. You guys know we've been out gallivanting around Europe and on vacation. So I'm finally back giving you some Angel City news. And what a better game. There's not a better game for me to recap. I mean, we've had such a stellar kind of comeuppance when in terms of our game play because of everything that's happened with the Summer Cup and a lot of our friendly matches. We've been very successful. And so coming back, July 6th was our last NWSL game. So it's really nice to be back into the mix with the season and to see how these girls were going to regroup and start off after this long break. And they did it with a bang. Let me tell you, I can't wait to get into it because, well, spoiler alert, they beat their SoCal rival San Diego Wave 2-1 on the road Saturday in, like I said, their first regular season game since July 6th. And this came by way of Alyssa Thompson, a name that we have not said a whole lot when it came to scoring goals. We did have some assists happening, but we really wanted her to get back in the scoring column. I think she needed that for her confidence, and she did that. She had a brace on Saturday, and then Abby Dahlkemper, defender for San Diego Wave, did cut that lead in half, scoring late in stoppage time for San Diego. So let me get into how this all transpired. Now, Angel City started knocking early on, finding a chance in the 13th minute. Forward Messiah Bright sent a well-weighted through ball in for forward Claire Emsley, who put an angled shot on target, but goalkeeper Kaylin Sheridan, she was there to block it with her foot. However, Angel City did stay on the front foot and opened the scoring line in the 20th minute. We saw midfielder Maggie Doherty-Howard play a long ball in behind, which Wave defender Hannah Lundqvist did get a foot on it, but she was unable to stop. And Thompson, well, she got on the end of that pass, drove towards the goal, dribbled past goalkeeper Sheridan, and as she kind of dove to get that ball, pulled her off her line, and then Thompson able to just slot it with her left foot into the goal, putting Angel City up 1-0. Now it would be less than 10 minutes before Thompson would double the lead, and in the 29th minute, the forward dribbled up the left wing, cut inside the box, shot through a pack of defenders, and Sheridan dove, made contact with the ball, but slipped through her grip and into the back of the net, doubling the lead for Angel City, putting them up 2-0. And that is how they would go into the half. Now, Thompson almost came close again in the 68th minute after midfielder Katie Zalem, which I'll talk to you guys about in just a moment. But she played a ball in from midfielder Kennedy Fuller inside the 18. Fuller took the ball inline, sent a diagonal pass into Thompson's run as she neared the penalty spot. But her one-time shot did hit the crossbar. And then that was going to be it. San Diego started to kind of make a late run. They had a lot of attempts there in the final 20 minutes. And, well, we're going to see a 72nd minute shot by midfielder Delphine Cascarino. Goalkeeper Didi Ericic did well to save, and the French international curled a shot in from just inside the 18. Keeper got a hand on, deflected it into the crossbar and out for a corner kick. Now, Cascarino, she would have another attempt in the 84th minute, cutting across the ACFC back line, firing off a hard strike, but defender Megan Reed was there, able to block that shot with her body. Unfortunately, though, they could not get the shutout in this matchup because San Diego is going to get a final look as the game came to the 87th minute with a cross from the left by Ime Vignola that Emsley connected with at the far post, but hit the woodwork. And then we're going to see the Wave notch their single goal in the 97th minute when midfielder Maria Sanchez served a free kick in behind the ACFC backline. Defender Abby Dahlkemper was able to head it past Hericic and into the back of the net. Thankfully for ACFC, that one goal was not enough for the Wave to get a tie in this game. So they are going to be victorious 2-1 at Snapdragon Stadium, or as we should probably name it, maybe Sunscreen Stadium or something, because if you haven't been there, it is nothing but sunshine there at that stadium. So either way, a lot of fun things in this matchup that I do want to talk about as far as milestones. We're going to see forward Alyssa Thompson, as I mentioned in this already. She got her first NWSL career brace in all competitions, scoring 2 goals in the 20th and the 29th minute. And she also became the second teenager to score multiple goals in a regular season match in NWSL history at 19 years old and 291 days. So just shy of becoming, that 2-0 name. So she got right in there in that teenage setting. First place is actually Mallory Swanson. Now, I mentioned the name Katie Zalem. She made her first NWSL career match appearance after subbing into the match in the 65th minute. Definitely keep an eye on her. She's played with the likes of Liverpool and Manchester United women's teams over in Europe and has also been a part of England's national team. Great midfield addition for Angel City. Happy to see her out there on the pitch. Excited to see what she's going to do. But I think the thing that most people were most excited about was the return of Kristen Press. Now, I know we've seen her in the Summer Cup and some other matches, but this was the first regular season NWSL match that we were going to see Kristen Press in since her injury that happened in June of 2022, just over 2 years ago. She got such a resounding welcome, even as an away team in that stadium. I think everybody was just excited to see a player of her caliber returning back to the pitch and doing something that she has worked so hard to get back to. It was so exciting to see her back there. Now, let's talk real quick about what we've got coming up, because we do have a match coming up Sunday, September 1st. It's going to be a home match. It's Kids Day. Lots of fun activities that are going to be planned. So you definitely want to head out to BMO Stadium for the game at 1 o'clock against the Chicago Red Stars. Super exciting about this matchup because, well, the Chicago Red Stars are sitting currently in the 7th position. They have 23 points. We're sitting in 9th place with 19. So although we cannot catapult them with a win, we can certainly cut into that and get ourselves into a better range for playoffs. Now, our head-to-head record with the Chicago Red Stars is 2 wins, 1 draw, and 2 wins to Chicago. So we're either going to see this head-to-head record even up with a draw, or somebody's going to tip the scales in their favor as far as wins go. It's going to be a very interesting game. I love the way Angel City is playing right now. I feel like they have really kind of hit their stride. You know, we said early on they've added a lot of new players. Becky Tweed did have her hands full with trying to really reorganize this roster and put together a team with all the new additions. And, you know, I'm hoping that they finally have really hit a good form. And this is going to be a great matchup. I do know the last time that we played Chicago, we did win. It was a 1-0 road win via an own goal. So not a game that, you know, they're probably looking at for inspiration, but either way, they do have that up on them for this game. And then if we want to pull out a win on Sunday, the thing that I think we need to really look at is rookie Jamise Joseph. She has scored a goal in each of her last 3 matches on the road in all competitions. She's the 5th Red Stars player to score in 3 straight road games, joining the likes of Jen Hoy, Sam Kerr, Kristen Press, and Mallory Swanson. She was their 15th round pick in this year's draft. So definitely a name that we want to keep our eyes on. We definitely want Angel City to come out and keep their eyes on her, especially if she starts. But if she comes in as that super sub spot, you know, they're going to need to have somebody out there that can rival her. So a lot of exciting things. I think everybody needs to head out to this matchup on Sunday. It's going to be a great day. It's a 1 o'clock game. Who doesn't like early games? You know, you can still get home. You still have the rest of Sunday to kind of hang out and chill. Hopefully we will all be celebrating an Angel City win. Now, speaking of win, there's something that I want to talk to you guys about, because I know you guys recently had on this podcast, you had Lee Wynn on here, and well, spoiler alert, he just departed Angel City, and I don't know, I'd kind of like to throw it back to the guys to see if they have any thoughts on that, maybe what they think he's going to do. Do we think we're going to see him with another team? I think there have been some rumblings of possibly Lee Wynn going out to Boston. There's a good chance, you know, with that on the horizon with that team, he might head out there. I don't know. Philly, Tim, you guys have any thoughts on that?
I mean, my first thought is I'm a little bummed that I wasn't part of that interview, because there's something that Lee Wynn and I share in common. We both went to Indiana University. He was a freshman when I was a senior. I'd have loved to have been a part of that. But needless to say, Lee Wynn shockingly called it a day with Angel City. And yeah, I would imagine that maybe there was an opportunity that he had to jump on while he could in order to help his career out. Now, he obviously wouldn't have gotten dismissed for any reason, at least nothing in terms of the rumor mill. I just think he might be a part of something a little different, maybe something that helps promote him, because he's operated as an assistant coach. Perhaps he is linked into something that's entitled NWSL Boston.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes. I've always enjoyed him since he was a player with LAFC as well. It was fun to watch and follow his career, and hopefully ends up somewhere. Yeah, kind of interesting, kind of a shock, you know, at this time in the season to see him go, but hopefully it was something mutual and not anything we need to worry about. But either way, like I said, Angel City definitely stepping up recently. I'm excited to see this game on Sunday. We'll definitely be there for that. They're going to be having a fan fest. So come on out. Like I said, a lot of really fun activities, especially for the kids. So if you've been wanting to come out to a game and you just haven't done it, I feel like this is a great game that we will be able, that we should watch. And, you know, I really think Angel City is going to be able to pull out this win. Do you guys have any thoughts, any predictions about this? I mean, Chicago's, you know, they've had a decent season. They've been sitting in the middle of the table. They've got 7 wins, I believe 8 losses and 2 draws. So I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on predictions?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what we were talking about earlier. Chicago's coming out here and they're going to have to be travel heavy. So it's going to be a little bit different time frame for them too, right? It's going to be like a three o'clock game if you put it in that perspective. And you had mentioned it, that chemistry is starting to come together for Angel City. Kristen Press being in the back, you're getting these teenagers scoring a couple of goals a game. You've got Madison Curry playing great. You got Claire Emsley playing great. You have a bunch of these women going out and really, really, truly coming together. And I see it being on the victorious side for Angel City this weekend. I'm going to say 2-1.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we're going to be able to do it. Like I said, come out Sunday, tune in, catch it. I think you're going to see Angel City put on a great performance. So, Philly, do you have any predictions before we wrap this up?
I mean, I'm a homer. I've got season tickets to Angel City. Angel City all the way, baby. I don't know what else to say.
Cheers to that. I love your insight and just your analytical breakdown of that. So anyways, I'm so glad that I got to be back here for this wrap up, guys. Hopefully I see you guys real soon.
Thanks, Panda. Yeah, I think that was a nice job, Panda. We appreciate it. And with that, let's hop over to Orange County. So we talked about this at length last week that Orange County was going to have a heck of a time going out to the Charleston Battery, right, Philly? And it's impossible for almost any team to have a red card in the 5th minute and really have any real solid chance of winning, right? Especially against the team sitting second place in the Eastern Conference. And that's exactly what Orange County did. Orange County was behind the 8 ball early. Ryan Dogman took a red card, which he kind of had to take, right? The Charleston Battery had gotten behind the defense, and Dogman just shoved the guy right down. He was the last defender. And Ryan, kind of incredulously looks at the referee, but realized that he was in the wrong and takes the red card. And Orange County is down to 10 men almost immediately. Now, I could go through and just talk about the dismantling that Charleston did because they played so exceedingly well. But I do want to mention one of the goals by Nicholas Markanovich. We had talked about him. He's leading the league by leaps and bounds in goals, came into this game with 21 goals. He walks out of this game with 24. And at the end of the day, it was a 6-0 dismantling by Charleston. Orange County did put up a fight. They were down 2-0 at halftime. Charleston did get a red card later in the game in the second half to bring it down to 10 men. But Charleston put 4 on the board, including what I think is going to be easily the goal of the month. In the 48th minute, there was a set piece off to the top right side of the Orange County box. And if you watch this play, I watched it about 6 times because I was trying to figure out exactly how it happened. But there's a set piece and they send it in long purposely. Markanovich initially runs into about the 6 and then backs up. The Charleston forward plays a beautiful header right down to Markanovich. And Markanovich takes this volley and it's at least hip high. And he just buries it. Shuttler had no chance at all to come anywhere near this ball. And that really was the nail in the coffin for Orange County. They continue on. They tried to play hard. And then, the game ends 6-0. They go home. And then what was very, very interesting is that on Monday, the majority owner of the Orange County Soccer Club, James Keston, posted an open letter onto all of his social media sites and to the Orange County Soccer website that was very, very direct. You and I talked about this, Philly, about what was going on with it. And, was he calling out the team? Because there's been some backlash on Orange County about this. They still sit in 8th place. They're still in a playoff spot. But the letter was very pointed, very direct, and said that this was unacceptable. It was not what they have built this team to do. It's not what they're trying to do with Orange County, especially now that they've just opened up ownership and they now have thousands of owners, right? Keston is still the majority owner and he still runs the team. But because the city of Irvine has backed this team so much, he felt that it was in good graces to open up ownership. And so while they don't have a majority ownership and James Keston can still do what he wants, mostly, he now has to listen to a couple of thousand other owners on his team taking care of this thing. And so he just said that, basically, hey, next week is going to be different. And we're hoping so because, they've talked about this for a while. We've had on a few different of their players. We had Colin Shuttler on earlier in the season. We've put some, Bryce Jamison has been on the show. And the big thing is, will it truly get different with Paul Hardiman as coach? Because now it's been 5 full games that Orange County has not scored a goal.
At the end of the day, the way this sport, this beautiful game of soccer, football, as some would call it, the way it operates is there's a regular season, and if you have the fortune of being successful enough to make the playoffs, that's technically another season. And so, yeah, it hasn't been the season the way that everybody on top of Orange County Soccer Club would have appreciated it. And I get why ownership or management or whoever in charge wrote that letter, PR, if you will, because it's a matter of settling people that put money, thought, passion, and ideas into the club. In an area like we live in, Southern California, on the border of Los Angeles, and if you're in Orange County, on the border of San Diego, there are so many distractions that could occupy our minds. Why would lower level soccer in this country matter? And that's a really good question to ask. But Orange County Soccer Club does matter because they're a club that's trying to do things from the grassroots, that's trying to be innovative, that is trying to think differently than a lot of other clubs out there. So that message was important and poignant, and I hope it really struck to the core because the team really is, without a doubt, better than their performance has been on the field. But fact of the matter is, they're in that playoff conversation. And as long as they slide into the postseason, if they could get the full team back that they need, then this is a team that we know historically has succeeded. And that's what matters. USL, MLS, any sport within the United States has 2 seasons. The regular season, and if you succeed to make it into it, the playoffs. And as we know, it's a completely different season. And as long as Orange County can do what they need to do to go into the postseason, sky's the limit.
Absolutely. So with that, let's get after this game this weekend. They play Saturday night at the Champ, August 31st at game time of 7:00. But you know what? It is Labor Day weekend. It's Beer Fest, baby. So get there early, get your tickets, unlimited free samples of beer before the game. And based on that letter and based on the reactions that I've seen on social media, I think this is going to be a really, really well-attended event. They always pack it in for Beer Fest, but this game, especially with the letters that Keston has put out, I bet you this is a packed house. I bet you we're talking about 5,000 people inside that stadium. So get out, support the local boys. And yes, they are in the playoff conversation. And like you said, anything can happen in season 2. So let's go Orange County. Let's go get them. And with that, what's going on for miscellaneous there, Philly? There's been all kinds of other footy going on, Premier League talking. And oh, by the way, did we or did we not have a very big draw this morning for some of the European League?
Yeah, Champions League had their draw this season. They're doing things in a different format. I watched it earlier on CBS Sports Golazo Network, and you had 4 pots. And the way it would work is it was pretty darn cool. You had Gigi Buffon picking things up and Cristiano Ronaldo hitting this button that would create an algorithm. And we're going to utilize Bayern Munich as the team to talk about because both Tim and I support that team. So Gigi Buffon picks Bayern. Cristiano Ronaldo hits a button. So the way it's going to work, the traditional way of doing Champions League, you're not going to have the groups where there's 4 teams, yada, yada, yada. You're going to basically have every team that plays 8 games, and then the best teams there compete on. So as we mentioned, we're going to talk about Bayern. Bayern has the following teams, and not necessarily in the order of the schedule because that's going to come out later. They've got Paris Saint-Germain at home. They got Barcelona on the road. They got Portuguese giant Benfica at home. They got Shakhtar Donetsk away, although we know all the conflict that's going on in the Ukraine. Not entirely sure where Shakhtar's away game is going to be. They got Dinamo Zagreb at home. Feyenoord, Dutch Giants away. Slovan Bratislava in Allianz, and Aston Villa at Villa Park. So that's an example of what's going to go on. Bayern is going to play these teams, and every team within this Champions League is going to play games. The best, I think it's, I forget exactly, the best 16 or so that's going to be there. They're going to continue to compete on. More on that later, but it's a unique way that they've been doing Champions League in particular because this is the first season they've been doing it this way.
Yeah, and I think it's really super fun. I think having Ronaldo hit the big giant, that was easy button, was fantastic. I think it was super fun. I think that Aston Villa game at Aston Villa is going to be fantastic. I think the PSG at home is going to be one of the best games of this first round. I'm really, truly looking forward as a big Bayern supporter. Absolutely dig it. I love the way that they did it. I think it just makes it way more fun and way more interesting for the fans, right? To be able to go and see some of these guys that you're not normally seeing.
I completely agree. It's going to be fun for Bayern. They have a tall task against them. Folks, we're running to the end of happy hour, which was kind of unfortunate, although I know Tim and I are probably going to go elsewhere to conclude the happy hour. Make sure you tell your mom, your dad, your cousin, your sister, your third cousin 7 times removed that might have been your college roommate had you gone to college in 1980 about soccer in 60. We want to grow this show organically. We are on Apple. We are on Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And of course, on YouTube, make sure to follow Soccer in 60 for all of your news within Southern California soccer. Tim, any final words?
Yeah, that's it, man. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out. Philly, it's been great. Everybody out there,
Always.
Thanks for joining.